Hello friends and loved ones, and welcome to another long-awaited Megami Tensei ranking video. Back when Persona 3 Reload was first announced, I decided to go ahead and rank all of the initial Personas from Persona 3. And now that Reload has been out for a few weeks, what better time than to rank the ultimate Personas as well? Just to be fair to those of you still playing through Reload as your first Persona 3 experience, consider this a spoiler warning, even if I won't be going into the specific story details. You all know the drill by now, my opinions may differ from yours, and I'm not particularly sorry if I say your favorite is mediocre. Alright, cool, let's get started. And that means starting with the one and only protagonist, as far as Reload is concerned, Makoto Yuki. I'm actually going to be going ahead and looking at 3 different personas for him, even if only one of them actually counts as the ultimate persona for the character. Firstly, there's Thanatos of the Death Arcana, and while mostly underwhelming in battle, this is a great and iconic design that really stands out. It left a lasting impression in the story, and so many little details it has just work, from the coffins, to the sword, to the iconic mask, helmet, I'm not sure what you'd call that thing. I know I often compliment Personas for having bright, vibrant colors, but the darker shades and minimalist use of color in what is mostly a black and white design works really well here. Honestly, this is an amazing Persona, which is probably why they keep bringing it back, from Elizabeth having it in the fighting games, to it being a common design in other side games, with it even getting its own Picaro version in Persona 5. Thanatos is an A-tier Persona. This is a genuinely great design. Next up, we have Messiah of the Judgment Arcana. While I think the choice to make Makoto's ultimate persona a broad term generally associated with Jesus in a game that mainly uses Greco-Roman figures is a bit odd, I am still a big fan of this persona. I've said that I usually like personas that feel like they tell a story or have an arc unto themselves, and the physical combination of traits from both Orpheus and Thanatos ends up looking fantastic. Truthfully, I've always loved this persona, and I was gonna give it an A, but I don't know. I think seeing it in Reload made me like it even more, so yeah, S tier for Messiah. I think he's earned it. Then lastly, there's Orpheus Telos of the Full Arcana, who is the reward players get for maxing out every social link in a single playthrough. This guy actually wasn't around until FES, because when they were originally making Persona 3, the developers truly believed they made it impossible to max every social link in one run. Gotta love gamers sometimes, right? Anyway, as you can see, this dude is merely just a recolored Orpheus, and frankly, I don't think the colors look as good for it as just regular Orpheus. I like this guy more for the commitment that it takes to get him and his versatility in combat, more so than the actual design. I gave regular Orpheus a B, and I'll probably keep that for Telos too, but it's a slightly lesser B. Also, why didn't Kodone get her own Telos in Portable? That could just been a completely different palette swap. It feels really lazy to me. I mean, who's Kodone? We're talking about Reload. Finally, moving on from our protagonist, it's time to look at Yukari Takeba and Isis of the Lover's Arcana. While I admit Io never impressed me too much, I think Isis is a step up in nearly every single way. I think it incorporates the bull motif better, the Hathor headdress symbolism and color scheme looks a lot nicer, and while Io was chained up and constrained, I love how Isis has these outstretched wings, and it does a really good job reflecting Yukari's arc throughout the story. I gave Io a C in the last video, but I think Isis is an improvement, so yeah, I'm gonna bump this up to a B tier. Then there's Junpei Iori and Trismegistus of the Magician Arcana. So, look, I'll be the first to admit that my top 10 Personas video from 2017 is pretty outdated. Heck, Persona 5 wasn't even out in English when I made that video. But some of you may remember that Trismegistus took the spot as my favorite Persona ever. I love this design. I love the bird motif and the alchemist symbolism, and I know I said I didn't like Orpheus Telos' color scheme for him, but I certainly love it for Trismegistus. I love this Persona's role in the story and how Hermes transforms into this ultimate form. I think it becomes one of the best and most memorable Personas in the franchise. I am happy to say that Trismegistus gets one of only 3 of my coveted S+ ranks. He truly is one of my favorite Personas of all time. And yes, that does mean somebody has surpassed him since 2017. If you want to find out who, you'll just have to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future ranking videos. Our next persona is a step down, and I don't particularly mean that in a negative way, it's just that everybody is a step down from an S+, like by definition. Akihiko Sanada and Caesar of the Emperor Arcana. Now, I had his initial persona at a D tier, as he remains one of my least favorite personas, but Caesar is a pretty great design. I love the Emperor throne in the chest cavity, and I want to get through this segment without making a he's got the whole world in his hands joke, so I'm just going to give him an A rank and move on. And now we look at the Queen of Executions, Mitsuru Kirijo and Artemisia of the Empress Arcana. In the last video, I said I actually liked her first persona, Penthesilea, more than I remembered liking her. The truth is, I used to like Artemisia more than Penthesilea, but now I'm not actually sure if that's the case. I think she's one of the few Persona 3 characters where I personally liked her initial more. Now, don't get me wrong, Artemisia is still a good persona, and very fitting for Mitsuru, but I just don't like it quite as much. Same with Telos. I'm not going to lower the actual grade because I don't think she's a C rank, but if I ever compiled an actual numerical list, I want it on the record that it is a lower B than Penthesilea was. Fuka Yamagishi and Juno of the Priestess Arcana is a massive improvement for me. Lucia was perfectly okay. I gave her a C rank, which is what I give personas that I think are fine. I don't really dislike them. But Juno really works for me. I love the use of color here, I adore her trippy wings, and I kinda like that she's got a more Fuka-esque hair design. The shade of red on her gown just really pops, and I dig it. Juno is honestly one of my favorite support personas in the franchise, so yeah, I'm gonna bump this one all the way up to an A. I really do enjoy it. In the last video, I talked about how I really enjoyed Palladian for being a persona based on an inanimate object over a specific deity. But if you watched my most recent episode of the Demonic Compendium, you'll know that when it comes to Aegis and Athena of the Chariot Arcana, I think it was a really cool and natural evolution that fits her story arc. Palladian's design was good, and I think Athena is a step up from that, so yeah, I think it's enough of an upgrade to warrant another A tier. Love that shield. So, once upon a time, I used to think that Koromaru and Cerberus of the Strength Arcana was unique because I just assumed that Cerberus was his ultimate persona and we'd just never seen his initial. I mean, it made sense to me. Mechanically, he acts as an ultimate persona, already having access to his full moveset and elemental immunities, and Koromaru kind of already had his moment of resolve before joining Seas. It was fun to imagine Koromaru had an unknown initial persona like Argos or something. But anyway, Persona Q kinda ended up crapping on that headcanon, and to compensate for Koromaru's lack of an ultimate persona, that game gave him a glowing version that I'm gonna refer to as Cerberus Telos. And it's still Cerberus, so I'm still gonna give it an A. I don't really see any reason to change that. Okay, so Kanemata and Kala-Nemi of the Justice Arcana. Seeing as how I once called Nemesis my least favorite persona ever, a position I have since backpedaled on, this one really has nowhere to go but up, but honestly, not a whole lot more up. I definitely think it's better, and it manages to use the orange color scheme nicely. I'm a big fan of the zodiac symbolism incorporated into it, and seeing it go from a circle of pain to an infinity loop of resolve is great visual symbolism for Ken's arc, but yeah, this is just one of those ones I really don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's just gonna be a C rank, it's fine. And lastly, we have Shinjiro Aragaki and Castor of the Hierophant Arcana. Much like Koromaru, Shinjiro didn't get an ultimate persona, so I'm just gonna be ranking what I'll call Castor Telos from Persona Q. It is still Castor, although, you know what? Castor is one of my personal favorite personas, so consider this me retroactively bumping Castor up from an A rank to an S rank. This isn't to imply that glowy Castor Telos from Q is better or anything, just, yeah, they both deserve the S rank in my book, and I'm not sure why I gave him an A in the first place. Alright, and with that, I am done looking at the ultimate personas of Persona 3. I'm definitely glad I waited until I had a chance to play Reload before diving into this particular topic, and I feel like I was a lot more positive this time around compared to the initial Personas. Most of the ultimates were either better or at least on par with the initials, and a few of my very favorites got a chance to shine here. Now, what do you all think? Do you agree or disagree with any of my rankings? Who is your favorite ultimate Persona from Persona 3? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and feel free to drop suggestions for what categories you'd like to see me rank in Megami Tensei. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.